What a week! Lots of gaming news happened, and it's mostly news that you can look at from a positive light or a negative angle. Hogwarts Legacy, we got Shadows, updated sales numbers. What about Uncharted? And of course that big Ubisoft story. Let's start with that. So sit back and let's go. Ubisoft finally revealed more about their future plans to turn things around by announcing a new subsidiary with Tencent focused on Assassin's Creed, Far Cry and Rainbow Six. The big Chinese gaming giant will invest 1.16 billion euro when the deal closes before the end of the year, and then they will own 25% of this subsidiary, meaning that in the future Ubisoft will have to share 25% of the profits they earn with these franchises with Tencent. But they think it's worth it because with the Tencent money they can accelerate the plans they already have and even expand them. What they note is that this should further increase the quality of narrative solo experiences, expand multiplayer offerings with increased frequency of content release, introduce free-to-play touchpoints, and integrate more social features. But really, Ubisoft was already doing this. Rainbow Six will go free-to-play with the launch of X in June that will overhaul the game in many ways. A mobile title has been in the works for a long time, so they can now maybe better support that, and maybe increase the amount of content they release every season for Siege. On the Assassin's Creed side, we already know that Ubisoft was planning to launch 10 Assassin's Creed games in 5 years, and this also includes an Odyssey-style free-to-play mobile game that is actually made by Tencent. Hopefully with this new deal they can finally release that, because it seems to be already done. We know they plan to launch multiplayer games too, with maybe even a co-op mode for Shadows. So again, this was already the plan and nothing will really change, but this extra focus and money might mean that we get a bigger post-launch support for Shadows and other games, and that they might delay more if necessary, because they really saw that that helped with Shadows. Far Cry is more an unknown. We know 7 was supposed to launch this year but got delayed to 2026, and a multiplayer extraction shooter was rebooted earlier this year. Maybe they will now also make a mobile title, I don't know, but it's clear that there's a ton of untapped potential still with this franchise. Ubisoft will install a dedicated leadership team that will only focus on these 3 franchises instead of overseeing all the projects at Ubisoft. So I think if you are a fan of these games, nothing really changes. This is actually good news because these plans were already in place, but now they're setting them better up for success. And this hopefully leads to better products and more quality time that we can spend in these games in the coming years. But yeah, what happens to the old Ubisoft that is left with all the rest? I've said it before, but I don't think it will end very well. So what they say is that the old Ubisoft will focus on nurturing the development of iconic franchises, including Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon and The Division. They will accelerate the growth of top-performing titles, leveraging disruptive technologies on selected new IPs, while continuing to deliver state-of-the-art production game engines and online services. Okay, that's a lot of words, but I think that the next Ghost Recon game and The Division 3 they started working on last year will continue and probably see the light of day. They will probably also keep their live service games around, like For Honor and Skull and Bones, that are seemingly profitable in terms of post-launch support, even though the money they bring in is likely not a lot. We know they're making an Animal Crossing style game that could be pretty big. It's probably one of the few new IPs they will keep around, but for the rest, I think it's kind of over. So beyond Good and Evil 2, the new Rayman game, maybe even the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake, I think it's interesting that they did not mention the Splinter Cell remake. They've been working on that for a long time now. I could totally be wrong about what games they will continue with, but something will change, because Eve, the CEO, says that we are committed to building a sharper, more focused organization, and you do that by cutting out a lot of the fat. They basically removed the 3 biggest money generators for the old Ubisoft. So for that old Ubisoft unit to make a profit, or at least be in the green, they have to cut costs significantly. And sadly, the best way to do that is to close studios and lay off a lot of developers not working on the franchises that make the most money. There's a lot more to say, but this covers the most important things without going too long. Want to go more in depth on it during the Monday stream on the React channel, link to that in the video description. So join there, that would be awesome. And already let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I might pick up those comments and talk about them during the stream as well. Developers on other games, not the big 3, are reportedly worried, and I think rightfully so. We'll hear a lot more in the coming weeks and months, and we'll of course cover it here. Now let's look at other gaming news. If you like the video so far, leave a like, that would really help me out. And subscribe, because we post one of these big gaming news roundup videos every Sunday. Time for quick shots, news stories I will go over quickly, starting with kind of sad news, although again, you can look at it from a positive angle too. So Bloomberg reports that Warner Brothers cancels the planned Hogwarts Legacy game expansion. And this was seemingly because they were concerned that the amount of content was not substantial enough to justify the price being considered. Look, I would have loved a good reason to return to the game, but they could hurt the good thing they got going if they were going to ask $30 for like 10 hours of new content. Starfield did that last year and that did not go over well, so maybe not burn bridges and focus all the efforts on the sequel that is still in development at the Salt Lake City, Utah-based Avalanche Software, the Warner Brothers subsidiary that developed the first game. I mean, there's enough to play in 2025 anyways, but yeah, now it will mean that we won't get any new Hogwarts Legacy style content until 2027 at the earliest. Let me know what you think of the news in the comments down below. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is indeed launching on April 17th, as we discussed before in these Sunday videos, and it's so far seemingly doing very well in pre-orders on the PlayStation Store. So a great start for Microsoft. We also learned how their other games have been selling on PS5 according to Alinea Analytics. So Sea of Thieves was the most popular, followed by Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, Age of Mythology, and Pentiment. So yeah, that's a lot of extra money for games that Microsoft got all the juice out of on their platform. So we should see even higher numbers for Forza and Indiana Jones, with a Gears of War collection, Doom, Starfield, Hellblade 2, Outer Worlds 2, and maybe even more planned for later in the year. Are you looking forward to any of these Xbox games coming to PS5? Also let me know in the comments down below. We got some release date updates for games. We should expect The Witcher 4 and Intergalactic before 2027, even though both games were of course announced at the Game Awards, while Ghost of Yotei is once again reconfirming a 2025 release window. Like Death Stranding 2 got the release date 3 months in advance, so I'm thinking during the end of May, early June State of Play or PlayStation Showcase, we hear about the September or early October release date for Ghost of Yotei. I at least can't wait and will of course keep you posted here. And speaking of Intergalactic, it seems like Naughty Dog has been working on another game for 3 years with Sean Askai at the helm. He worked on Uncharted Lost Legacy, then moved to Crystal Dynamics to direct the Avengers game, then he came back to Naughty Dog to work on Part 1. But now 2.5 years later, he's still at the studio as a creative director on something else. Like, it's not Intergalactic. You would think it is Uncharted related, as Neil would likely be more involved if this was The Last of Us Part 3. But his hands are full with the TV show and Intergalactic. Now, Naughty Dog also said they were done with Uncharted, but maybe not with remaking those games. Like an Uncharted 1 remake would probably do very well and seems like a project for Sean after Last of Us Part 1. Although a new game like Lost Legacy would of course be way cooler. Now let me know what you think in the comments down below. We got updated Assassin's Creed Shadows numbers. 1 week after launch they reached over 3 million players. It was the second highest day 1 sales revenue in the Assassin's Creed franchise, which huge, with Valhalla of course being number 1. But Shadows did have a better Ubisoft day 1 on the PlayStation digital store ever, which kinda wild. But of course digital sales have been growing a lot since 2020, and 40 million hours have been played already. In Japan the game is not doing too hot. It sold 17,701 physical units since release. For comparison, Rise of the Ronin, also a PS5 exclusive, did 64,000 last year. Even Valhalla did way better than Shadows. Ghost of Tsushima is still wild, by the way, at 212,915. And if they compare this to the previous Assassin's Creed games after 1 month, then Shadows should be at 6 million players. Although this time it's different, because the other Assassin's Creed titles of course had huge spikes thanks to Black Friday and Christmas. Shadows does not have that. We'll of course keep you up to date here, as it's interesting to see how healthy the franchise is as we move into the next chapter for Ubisoft. Time for a quick rumor roundup, also Assassin's Creed related. Here I give stars, with 3 being I believe this and 1 being we should take this with a large grain of salt. So on the PlayStation Store, Black Flag now suddenly shows announced instead of purchased, like Syndicate. We of course have Black Flag Remake rumors for a long time now, with the game seemingly launching at the end of this year. But maybe there's an announcement already happening sooner than we thought. I give 2 stars. Like, I think it's very likely going to happen, but I don't think we should read too much into this PlayStation Store change. But yeah, after having now played Shadows, imagining Black Flag with the wind tag and other graphical enhancements is going to be wild. It seems like it will also include some gameplay enhancements and new features around combat and ecosystems around wildlife. I'm curious if they're going to change the combat to be more like the RPG games. I would like that, but I also know that not everyone would agree. Let me know your take, of course, in the comments. This coming week is going to be pretty big. On April 2nd, Nintendo will reveal the Switch 2 and all the plans, with pre-orders seemingly going live on April 9th, and the system should be out in June. We of course don't cover Nintendo a lot here on the channel, but it's still going to be a big moment for the industry, so I'll be keeping an eye out. The Last of Us Part 2 is also launching on PC this coming week, with an update on PS5 as well, with new content for the No Return mode. A Monster Hunter Wilds update is releasing on April 3rd and 4th, depending on where you live. We overall got some fun videos coming your way, of course more Shadows content. Hopefully we learn about the post-launch this week, as I expect the first big update not this coming week, but the week after that. We'll keep you posted here with, of course, a news roundup like this at the end of the week on Sunday. So subscribe to not miss anything. A like would really help me out. And check out our previous video by clicking on the screen. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.